for our next guest, Drunvalo Melchizedek, who has just come out with his long-awaited book, The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life. Talk about revising history. Well, Drunvalo's doing it in such an interesting fashion, including so much. Drunvalo's joining us from a hotel in Everett, Washington. Hello, Drunvalo.
Hello, Laure Lee.
Nice to talk with you. I want to clear something up.
Okay.
There was some controversy here of late over those wonderful hieroglyphs that look like it shows a helicopter and tanks and all sorts of things, and that were recently showcased on a Fox special about going and looking at Egypt and opening some tombs.
Yes.
I actually want to say that I saw photographs that you showed way back when in the early 90s, and Greg Braden tells me that you had discovered, or somebody, or you had access to those photographs, even back in the late 80s.
We were probably one of the first people to see this. I really don't remember when it was. I think it was 1985. And we just shot a camera up into the dark. We could hardly see what we were looking at because it was 40 feet up. We didn't know what it was until we got back. That's when we realized that it was a depiction of the future, not of the past or even the present. And later they discovered that the walls in ancient Egypt, the walls that had been destroyed, they thought were just vandalism, was not vandalism, but it was done systematically by the priesthood. In other words, they went in and they etched out very carefully the face and the hands of the deities and entities that were on the walls. And it was from there they discovered that there are 3 bands on the walls in Egypt. There's a lower band that's up to just about eye height, which represents the past. And there's a band that goes from about eye height to about 10 or 15 feet up, which is the present at the time the temple was built. And then everything higher than that is the future, what will happen. And it's pretty clear from that slide that they really can't see the future.
If you're wondering what we're talking about, then we do have photographs of that on our website at laurely.com. We'll also give you, we have a link to Drunvalo's website, so you can go check those out. A couple of things.
Okay.
What do you think Egypt was all about, and how does that figure in your reconstruction of history? What was happening there, and how could they see the future? Do you think that those were not hieroglyphs that mean anything? They were those little tanks and helicopters and such for depictions of shamanic journeying?
No, they really could see the future, and for the audience that's familiar with what's going on with the Bible Code right now with Michael Dresden and with Jeffrey Satinover's work, the future evidently is completely known. And the Egyptians just were doing the same thing. They had access to this. We all do. Everybody does. We just don't know.
How have you been accessing the content of your work?
Well, a long time ago, I was just learning how to meditate. This is way back in the late 60s or very early 70s. And I was with my wife, and we were learning how to meditate in a particular Hindu way using a mantra. And I had a Hindu teacher. And we were very serious about this. We made silk robes with hoods that were white and everything. And we didn't know what we were doing. We were just beginning. But in the study of doing this after a few months, something happened one morning quite unexpectedly. These 2 angels appeared in our room. They were very tall. They were about 10, 12 feet high. One was purple, one was green. And they said they were us, but we didn't know what that meant. And ever since then, from that day, my life has never been the same. They come to me all the time now, and they still do, even up to now. And they lead me. That's what they do. They tell me where to go and what to do.
Question from our chat room on those hieroglyphs of the helicopter. In which temple in Abydos are they?
That's in the study of the first temple in Abydos. It was done, I believe it was one of the first temples in the 18th dynasty. And there are other examples I would love to get. There's one in Dindara that I don't have a photograph of, but it would shock the world also. It's one of the planets from space, showing the planet clearly depicted as we would see it from space, with a long cord coming off of it that at the end looks like an electrical plug. And then on another wall just a little ways away is an electric plug, just like we would see today. And it's disconnected from it. And obviously, not only did they seem to know about electricity in those days, but they were able to see what the Earth looked like from space.
We continue right here on the Laure Lee Show with Drunvalo. Just came out with his new book, The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life. And yes, the Radio Bookstore has copies. From our chat room, Drunvalo, after you explained the Flower of Life symbol and where you first found it, we've got questions about the Hall of Records. Know anything interesting? And also, what do your sources say about the next few years? But first, this Flower of Life, how do you describe it for those who have not seen it, and where did you find it in Abydos?
Well, I studied physics and mathematics and art at the University of California, Berkeley, and graduated there. And for many, many years, from about 1972 up to about 1984, I studied something called sacred geometry, which is the proportions of how the universe is put together. And it resulted in a symbol of 19 interlocking circles surrounded by two lines. And this I knew was the key, but I'd never seen it anywhere in the world. And then one day, a woman, Katrina Raphael, who's written many books on crystals, and is an old friend of mine, found this in the temple behind the city, the first temple in Abydos, and there it was on the walls. And in fact, not just the symbol, but all the codes that were associated with it. And since that time, I found it all over the world. We found it in Iceland and Switzerland and England and Japan and China and Tibet.
On walls? Where?
Huh?
On walls or where?
Walls, temples, floors of churches, all over, everything imaginable, everywhere. We found it in at least 35 or 40 places around the world. We just recently found it even in the Yucatan at Chichen Itza.
Tell us how old this temple at Abydos is.
Well, it's one of the oldest walls in the world. That temple dates back somewhere around 6,000 years ago. It's the beginning of civilization. And it's debatable depending on who you talk to and exactly how old it is. But at any rate, we feel that we have decoded this symbol that all the ancients everywhere seem to agree on and know what it was. And it's the proportions, it's the key to how everything in the whole universe is fit together. And all the laws of physics and all the laws of how crystals are formed and viruses and human bodies and all of biology and everything can be derived directly from the understanding of how these circles fit together.
Because there's only so many ways to put shapes and forms together, and they have a certain influence in various...
The laws of sacred geometry automatically come out of it, even if you know nothing, and you begin to just sit there and draw them and begin to see the relationships, all the platonic solids, 5 platonic solids, which are the key. Everything will begin to unfold if you just begin to look into it and begin to make drawings and see. It doesn't make any difference who you are. You'll always come up with the same result. Leonardo da Vinci, all of his work and all of his the inventions, the helicopter, everything that he figured out were all based on the Flower of Life. All the masons and all the architecture and everything they did was all based on the Flower of Life.
Have you asked a few masons to show them the symbol and say...
I've had many masons that come to my workshops who didn't know about this until they saw it. But there have been people, Charles Gilchrist, who has taken the Mason symbols, their names, as they sign their names, they're on the cornerstones of all the churches in Europe. And every single Mason name that has ever lived, at least that we've ever found, fits over. It's a geometrical image, and they're all different, but they all fit over the Flower of Life perfectly. Every single one of them.
Meaning they line up in interesting ways or something?
They are pieces of the Flower of Life. Every Mason's signature.
Do you believe in a Hall of Records?
Yes, I do believe in the Hall of Records.
What do you think it is, and what do you think is there?
Well, it was predicted by Edgar Casey, one of the first people way back in the 30s, that there was a room near the Great Pyramid under the ground that would be accessed by the right shoulder of the Sphinx that would contain proof that our civilization was not the first civilization that had reached a high level like we are now, and that there were actually many of them, many times before this has happened. According to other sources that I work with, these Hall of Records will prove, when they are found and brought out, that civilization goes back at least 5.5 million years.
What sources and what's the evidence?
Well, there really is no evidence in this except for what many prophets have said and legends within within Egypt itself and ancient writings stating this. There is something going on right now that is extraordinary around all of that, but the Egyptian government will not admit any of this, and so it's very difficult to prove anything. But we believe that, well, let's put it this way, the source that much of my information was channeled through, which was a man named Thoth, who was the scribe of Egypt, predicted that they would find a city underneath the Great Pyramid that would hold 10,000 people. And that was written down in the Flower of Life work as far back as 1984. And recently, in 1996, there were people who were claiming they found this city. Larry Hunter is one of them, and there are other people who are involved in this also, but they don't want to be mentioned. And in 1996, I got a communique from from Egypt, stating that they had found something that was very unusual, that they had gone underneath the Sphinx and found a room there from which there was a tunnel that went off to a round room from which there were 3 tunnels that went off. And one of these tunnels went toward the Great Pyramid. And as they went down this tunnel, they found a light field, a sheet of light that sealed off the tunnel. And they could not put anything through this, not even a rock or a bullet. Nothing could go through it. And they couldn't get near it. When they would get about 30 feet from the sheet of light, they would begin to throw up and get sick. And if they pushed forward, there was the definite feeling they would die. And so it sat there for a long time, for several months, and nobody was able to get into it. And then there's this long story, which I don't know if this is really the place to bring it up now.
Oh, sure.
About people attempting to get in there and what went around all of this. It brings up many. There's a certain movie producer who attempted to go in, and various people tried to get in there and they could not, and eventually one person did, and this person does not want his name mentioned.
Okay.
But we would all know who it is if we said it, and who actually was able to get in through the light shield and enter into this underground city. And
what was it like? What did he report, he or she?
Well, this person videoed it, and which was put out publicly in Australia, and then it's been closed off since then.
Did you see the video?
I've had 3 friends who saw the video.
But you haven't seen it yourself?
I never saw it myself, no.
Oh, so all copies of the video have been kind of confiscated?
We don't know.
Huh.
But Larry Hunter, if you want to go into his website, and I really don't know what it is, it's probably his name. Probably he has probably more evidence about this than anyone. But they are not interested right now at this time of allowing this information out, so there's not much else we can say about that.
What was Egypt about, do you think? And you spent a lot of time on Akhenaten. Who do you think Akhenaten was?
Well, I believe that it's hard to talk about Egypt without going back further and talking about Atlantis. And, of course, then
give us the quick story on Atlantis, and then we're going to take some calls.
Well, Atlantis was a stage of development of our humanity. We are a little over 200,000 years old, and we've been through stages from first coming from Africa over to Lemuria, and from Lemuria over to Atlantis. And during the end periods of Atlantis, we made a huge mistake. We broke the rules of the universe, you might say. We created a certain kind of field called an external Merkaba, which is a counter-rotating field of light, systematically by the priesthood. In other words, they went in and they etched out very carefully the face and the hands of the deities and entities that were on the walls. And it was from there they discovered that there are 3 bands on the walls in Egypt. There's a lower band that's up to just about eye height, which represents the past. And there's a band that goes from about eye height to about 10 or 15 feet up, which is the present at the time the temple was built. And then everything higher than that is the future, what will happen. And it's pretty clear. We just should have shot a camera up into the dark. We could hardly see what we were looking at because it was 40 feet up. We didn't know what it was until we got back. That's when we realized that it was a depiction of the future, not of the past or even the present. And later they discovered that the walls in ancient Egypt, the walls that had been destroyed, they thought were just vandalism, was not vandalism, but it was done.
For our next guest, Drunvalo Melchizedek, who has just come out with his long-awaited book, The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life. Talk about revising history. Well, Drunvalo is doing it in such an interesting fashion, including so much. Drunvalo is joining us from a hotel in Everett, Washington. Hello, Drunvalo.
Hello, Laure Lee.
Nice to talk with you. I want to clear something up.
Okay.
There was some controversy here of late over those wonderful hieroglyphs that look like it shows a helicopter and tanks and all sorts of things that were recently showcased on a Fox special about going and looking at Egypt and opening some tombs.
Yes.
I just want to say that I saw photographs that you showed way back when in the early 90s, and Greg Braden tells me that you had discovered, or somebody, or you had access to those photographs, even back in the late 80s.
We were probably one of the first people to see this. I really don't remember when it was. I think it was 1985. And from that slide, that they really can see the future.
If you're wondering what we're talking about, then we do have photographs of that on our website at laurely.com. We'll also give you, we have a link to Drunvalo's website, so you can go check those out. A couple of things.
Okay.
What do you think Egypt was all about, and how does that figure in your reconstruction of history? What was happening there, and how could they see the future? Do you think that those are not hieroglyphs that mean anything? They were those little tanks and helicopters and such for depictions of